welcome to Fresh Leadership, the show for leaders and contributors who know the game at work is changing and don't want to be stuck playing by old rules. I'm Mitch Simon. I design and facilitate leadership and team retreats for companies that are growing fast and trying to figure out how to stay human while everything around them gets more automated. In this show, we're not talking about AI from a technical angle. We're talking about what you need to do differently as a leader, a manager, a teammate in a world where a lot of the so-called smart stuff can be handled by machines. And I'm not doing it alone. I'm joined by two people who have literally built a new game of business, Ronen Gafni and Simcha Gluck. Ronen is the creator of the business game FreshBiz and a TEDx speaker. Simcha is his partner in crime and co-author of the book, The New Entrepreneurs. Together, they've helped thousands of people experience what it feels like to stop playing the old zero-sum game of business and start playing a new one. Today, in our fourth episode, we're getting personal. We're going to share our stories about how we discovered our art, which is our genius, the hurdles to get to our art, and the solution for you to find and own your art. We will also share why, in the world of AI, it is imperative that you own your art. So let's jump in. Simcha, how are you today?
Okay, doing well. Good to be here, man.
Good. And Ronen?
I'm good, yeah. Exciting times. Wow. Every week is like a decade.
It is like a decade. We don't even go into how quick AI is changing. So we left off last time where we talked about finding your art. What is your art? It's your genius. It's something that you do really, really well, and you're very passionate about doing your art. There's kind of like an upside and a downside to finding your art. Number one is when you find your art and you're in your genius zone, time goes by, you're in your flow, you're actually offering the greatest value. That's the upside. The downside, of course, is it's really difficult when you're trying to find your art. One, there's let's say a lack of confidence sometimes because it's something that you really, really like to do. And we were all taught that work is hard. And not only that, what we'll find in our stories is when you start to really go out there with your art, the world wants to shut you down. Where we are in the space of time now with AI is basically saying, I'm going to take all of this work that anybody can do and leave you with your genius. And that's how you're going to keep your job, and that's how you're going to find your next job. But in that interim, it's finding that art, finding your genius, in the midst of people telling you, no, don't do that. Play it safe. So I just wanted to let's start with you, Ronen, and why don't you share with us when you discovered what your art was, and what type of experience did you have with the world maybe trying to shut you down?
Wow. So, I'm still experimenting with this. I'm still experimenting with what's my art, and I think that it's an ever-changing thing because it has different ways to present itself in the world when you do different things. So it's not a one thing that you do. So for example, when I developed FreshBiz, I think that was like definitely doing my art. So one is that I was full of passion about this. I think that's a good indication. Like when you follow your passion and you see something in the world that you want to dive deeper into, you want to explore more, then for sure there is something out there for you. With FreshBiz, it was also how much time can I do something that I'm not being paid for, just out of passion. I think that once you find yourself doing it for like 4 or 5 years, I think that says something about like you're in your genius zone. So I think that for me, first of all, it's really like, finding what I'm passionate about. The moment that I had the idea to develop a game, I was all in. I was, getting the boards and getting the pencils and starting sketching and meeting with friends and playing the cards and sitting and designing. Like I was so into it that that is for sure telling me that I'm doing my art at the point, because at any point it didn't feel like a job. It didn't feel like something that I need to do. It never felt like a task. It always like something that when I get into it, and the moment I pause for a second and I'm getting out of it, I'm more full of energy. I'm not drained from energy. I'm full of energy. It's like I can do this like for 5 or 6 hours, and at the end of those 5 or 6 hours, I'm fired up. So I think that's a good indication to what doing my art is. It's like, am I really passionate? I'm okay with doing it without being paid for it, and I leave it with more energy than I got into it. I think that's a good indication.
All right, so passion and energy.
Yeah.
Simcha, what about you when you found your art?
Yeah. So I think that we were talking about definitely a big part of it is the idea of conversation around it. And then in addition, we talked about the community part of it. We talk about the experimentation part of it. Those are all elements of sort of like poking the box and seeing what works. I remember a big part of my journey was getting into the world of self-development and doing my first bunch of transformational workshops and realizing it's not just about business or sales or being professional, but it's about doing a lot of the inner work and like really letting go of some of the stuff that we don't even know is holding us back to be more real and more vulnerable and more present. And in doing that work, I wound up moving countries and starting really a whole new life with all new people and all new relationships and all new dynamics, and really trying to figure out who I am in this new country, in this new place. I'm married, so I know that I'm my wife Rachel's husband, and we're together. We have that, right? We have our microcosm, but on a more macro level, what am I doing? What am I about? And I remember just really looking around, I said I knew I wanted to get into coaching and training, so I had a bunch of clients, and I, it was really, it felt nice that I helped this woman reconnect with her mother-in-law and have a good relationship, and it felt good that I helped this guy lose weight and start dating, but I just felt like it was too small for me. I don't know if it's important for other people. It's super meaningful for me. I felt like I needed a bigger stage. And I remember personally, just to circle back with FreshBiz, because this is what we all have in common, obviously. But I remember being invited to the first ever workshop in English for FreshBiz, and I brought my wife and I brought some friends, and it was really cool. And for me, it was more than just an experience. It really went deep into my brain, and I saw it have a profound shift in everything I did every day going forward. I mean, I literally became the top real estate agent in my office from taking that sort of idea. I did a whole lot of stuff, and I realized I said, this is it for me. Like, this is my platform, because it met me at this perfect place of, again, I have people that I really want to impact, and I felt like just coaching people didn't know, but everybody could use to get better at business, or it would be helpful to get better about how they think about money or partnerships or collaboration. And I remember I bought a license and I started running workshops for my community, and the feedback was rich and it was awesome. And just like what Ronen said, I would just do it, and I just felt myself, I was just all in myself, like in a good flow, using this platform to allow Simcha Gluck to like share, words of advice and wisdom that just seems to some sort of like come through me based on all the learning that I've done and all the living that I've done and how much I love sharing this stuff. And the feedback was rich and it was real. And like what Ronen said, I would leave and I was like on such a high for hours. Like, it's just like, I'm like, if I could do this every single day, just have a packed workshop, right? To be able to just go and find purpose and meaning, deliver the message and help people and see it in real time, the shift that people make. So it's not just, starting someone on a journey, but it's really seeing it in real time. So there's that cause and effect that's there too. It was a real deep sense of satisfaction. So I that's sort of how I found my home for almost 15 years, working with Ronen, working with you, has been at that nice sweet spot, I would say. And I notice that with a lot of my passions, right? Because art is in different areas. I love doing herbalism. I love doing real estate. I see passions in there because it doesn't deplete me. It energizes me, and I feel the meaning and purpose behind it. And I feel like I'm interfacing with life in a really dynamic way through it.
Yeah, so the the common theme is what gives you energy. There's also a common theme. It's very interesting between you two, and then I'll share my situation. Is Ronen's art, amongst many, is game design, right? It's that's one of his arts, one of his geniuses, as he brings to the table. That game design is focused on human transformation. Simcha, you came into it where you actually went through your own personal transformation. You say, I think that's my thing, and then you brought that to the fore with both FreshBiz and then the real estate business. You just used personal transformation inside the real estate business to really support your team. So there seems to be an underlying thing. We're not saying that in the world of AI, one of the geniuses is personal transformation, but it might actually be, right? Because the machines can't personally transform you, at least not yet. It's really humans, and they say basically only humans will do that. My personal story, it's very interesting, is I didn't learn personal transformation. I actually just started to do it, and I had no idea what I was doing. Because I worked at Nokia. I worked at General Instrument and at Nokia, and in both cases, I was just sitting there thinking, I think we need to put on a retreat for these people. The first one was a strategy retreat, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I guess my art then, which I didn't know, which I was forming, was getting people into a room to have conversations to transform the future of the enterprise. That was the first strategy retreat I did before I even knew that I was good at strategy. I was good at leading retreats. The one thing that I'd love to ask you two both is the let's say the obstacles that came your way, because I knew that I really loved doing the strategy retreat. At the same time, I remember the day before the strategy retreat at General Instrument, the managing director pulled me into his office and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm pulling these people in to have a strategy retreat." He says, you have no authorization to do that." And I said, We've been talking about this for 4 months. This is not a surprise. And he basically says, "I am not allowing you to do a strategy retreat. No way, no how." And I said, "Thank you for your input." And then the next day I led the strategy retreat, which was the first time that the company had actually come together to formulate a strategy. This was at a time when this was a monopoly company that was going to be completely disoriented through competition. Then when I got to the next company, Nokia, I thought, still I hadn't learned anything about personal transformation. I thought, I think I want to take my team on a transformational leadership retreat, because I was listening to some tapes by this guy named Tony Robbins. So I get these people together. We go climb Mount San Jacinto here in Southern California, and we sit for 2 days and we have these wild ass conversations about your future and what is purposeful and meaningful and what's working, what's not working. And it was genius. It was magic. And I was like you're saying, Ronen, I could have done this and you too, Simcha, I could have done this every day for free, because I enjoyed those conversations so much. And again, what had happened was the day before, my boss pulls me into his office. He says, "What are you doing? There's no money for this. You need to do this retreat somewhere else." And I said, "I get that. We're going to Idlewild because it's dirt cheap, right? It's, I can rent a cabin for 2 days for less than the price of a hotel room in San Diego." And I loved it. And the people in my team were moved by it. And I was kind of on the cusp of something where I was saying, I think this is my thing, but I was really afraid, because it was really putting me out of what I was told what to do, especially in this corporate environment. So I wanted to turn it to you, Ronen. What obstacles did you have to face such that you were maybe scared about what you were doing, but you also knew you were on the right track? Because I think for the listener is it's so easy to say, just go find your genius. The thing is that finding your genius is just damn hard. So I'm just wondering, what obstacles did you face, Ronen, and how did you know that, wait a minute, this is different than just some self-doubt. I'm actually getting close to something which makes me and the planet a much better place.
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to it. Is like one is finding, and then it's sticking to it.
Yeah.
Keep on doing it. Like what you did with the retreat, for example, is like I'm doing it anyway. Like I don't care that you say that I can't do it. I'm doing it. So sticking to it is part of it. Keep on doing it, even though you get all kinds of different feedbacks. That's a thing by itself. So I think that if your passion is strong enough and your self convention about this is strong enough, then you can stand those outside setbacks that might prevent you from doing it, or maybe in other cases you'll stop, you'll just give it up. But there is something inside that says, no, I gotta go with this. Like there is like an inner voice, which is the soul voice that says, no, you keep doing it and I'll take care of the rest. Hey, I'll figure this out, okay? I have a plan, don't worry. Keep on doing it. It's like you have like a higher entity that gives you the confidence to keep on moving. And I think that one of the things that I experienced regarding like what might be a danger zone, let's call it like this, in doing my art, is that because we are so passionate about it and because we are willing to do it without being paid, so we might underprice it, right? Or even be so generous with it that others might want to take over the art or might want to take advantage of your generosity because you want to put it out there in the world. So I experienced a few of those. I had like a partner that sued me back then for about 50% for 50% of the game, where she had like nothing to do with the game whatsoever. She met me after the game was already out there, but I had to get to the Supreme Court of Israel with her just to take her off my back, just because she thought that she can bite into my art because I was so passionate about sharing this and being generous with providing this to the team. So she got confused that she has like IP over it, right? Because it was like no, it's not like it's mine. Let's sign all those contracts. No, okay, let's bring it to the world. Like I'm passionate about what I'm doing. So it's a danger zone there that people might take advantage of. Trying to grab into that art or underprice it, or you might go too far too long without being compensated the right way, and that comes with another set of challenges. And so that's from my experience, like really doing it for a long time without being paid or being too generous with my art for others so they take advantage of it. This is something that might happen to you when you kind of like lose the boundaries because you're so into it, you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so interesting. So the obstacle I faced was, I love this so much. I'm so passionate about it. It brings so much value. My boss will now say he will fire me. For you, how do you know that you've landed in your genius zone? When people are going to take you to court to sue you for your genius, you now know It is your genius. It's interesting. So here I am as a listener. I'm thinking, I need to go find something I'm so passionate about that people actually sue me over. Now I know I've got my genius.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. That's
Crazy.
a high level of.
That's a
Yeah.
high stakes game. Yes, you know.
Exactly, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
I'll tell you something interesting. As I heard Ronen talking, one of the things that was like an analogy in my head that I saw was regarding finding your art. Is it's sort of like, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to find a radio station and it's just like all grainy and crackly and things like that, but you don't give up, because you know that at some point you're gonna lock into that one station playing that music, and you'll be able to listen to that music and it'll be awesome. Now, it may not last for as long as you want, but it's like every person has that dial, and if they could just sort of scan the whole network, the whole spectrum, the whole frequency, and then they can sort of get into exactly what that is, then they'll find it. A big thing I think also about doing your art is that you'll bump up to a lot of the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves or about how life is that we didn't expect. My dad, for example, is a real role model for me, and someone who is just one of the greatest people that I know and I love. I have so much respect for. And for my dad, being the vice president of a big civil engineering company in the States, that meant that he was on a train at like roughly 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to get to the city by 7:15, be at his desk by 8 to be there early, because that's what they told him to do. And then he'd come home at night at like 7:30 p.m. And for me, I made that in my brain equal being responsible. So it's like, well, if being responsible means that I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then come home at 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm never going to be responsible. Like I just like, that's just not, I'm not designed like that. So am I just an irresponsible person, or can I create my own lifestyle around a professional pursuit that responsible means something totally different? It meant one thing to my dad. It means something completely different to me. And it was a process of sort of learning what that looks like and being okay with it. And, being a trainer, being an entrepreneur, when it rains, it pours, but there's dry seasons, right? And we know that. And it's just like, I have a lot of friends that are salaried employees, and it's nice. It's great for them. And if that's what you do, be the best salaried employee, employee that you could be, and go work really hard, and it's awesome. And they know exactly what comes in every single month, and maybe there's a bonus out there. And for me, I have to sort of like amortize that over the 12 months of the year, what's going to be, because there's dry season, there's low season. So it's really, there's energy involved. There's reframing perspectives about what responsibility is and what that looks like. I love what you guys are both saying about generosity, right? It's like, if I love doing this, then maybe I'll just do it for everybody. But you got to take care of yourself, and you got to energetically charge something so that people feel like there's stake in the game. And so there's all these different dynamics of psychology involved on every single different level. But I just wanted to bring that up. I've really felt that the idea of changing the channel, it's just like static. But at one point, I'm going to hear that rock and roll song, and boy, do I know that I'm rocking to that rock and roll song that I just found at this 93.6. Like that's it. And then it's about the consistency.
I like what you said about limiting beliefs. When you bump up into your limiting beliefs, you've hit your genius zone. It's pretty crazy how much, at least in my experience, when I was so dialed into that one radio station that was me, I got the radio station, and then the limiting beliefs came in. In the FreshBiz game, we talk about the fleas. And we talk about how, if a flea has been limited in a jar, then his if it's a man flea, his children and his grandchildren will have these limiting beliefs. And I do think that this generation is just like the generations before, are going to bump up into our limiting beliefs, which say, do what everyone else is doing. Don't rock the boat. You might get sued. You might get fired. You might actually have a lot of fun. It's just so interesting that that it's hard to get to that radio dial. Once you lock in, boy, is it really fun. And then you're almost thinking about, I don't want to lose this signal. And I think that's what this is all about. In my story with the transformational retreat, I was absolutely in my zone. I was absolutely transforming a bunch of individuals, many who I still keep in contact with today. But I was really treading on water because my bosses did not approve of this behavior. And then when I left the corporate world, I had to now deal with my own reality that I've been trained as a monkey to focus on all the unimportant stuff. Yet as an entrepreneur, I had to focus on what I did best or I would starve to death. And so what happened was, as I started to get out there and started to lead a lot of workshops, I really had a lot of my friends tell me, no, you're great at this. Which I want to go in the second part, which is, how did you then know it was your art? And I think a lot of it for me was my friends were telling me, no, this is what you should be doing. You should be speaking. You should be leading. Your stuff is actually really good. It's really, really different. So I did need that support to support my genius. Maybe I just didn't have the confidence, but it was doing those workshops and then doing them over and over and over again. I also remember finding out that when I started doing workshops, I knew my genius was creativity and my genius was engaging people in conversations. But at the beginning, what I wanted to do was just to play it right, because that's what I learned in the corporate world. Just get this thing right. And I was just the most boring human being on the planet, again and again and again, until I just discovered, I need to go into my genius zone. I need to engage in conversations. I need to bring in something new. And every time I would bring in something new and walk away from the page, my clients really enjoyed it even more. So I was wondering, is there anything else that you guys that contributed to your locking in and knowing that this, in fact, was your art, even though the world was telling you it might not be? Who wants to go?
I think that, for me, a lot of my art is about, picturing the future. Mm-hmm. I think that everything that I do has to do with a futuristic view of what's possible for humanity. And when you do that, and if you look far enough into the future, you're probably going to lose most of your audience at some point, because people can take a look 2 years into the future or 5 years into the future, but if you ask people to look 20 years into the future, especially in the scale of things happening now, at some point you're going to lose most of them. So for me, getting a feedback from other people that my ideas make sense or what I'm building makes sense, it's not that common because it doesn't make sense for them. So I have to build a lot of self-confidence in knowing that there is something that pushing me forward. Or I would say differently. I would say that there is something that is pulling me towards that I need to follow. Something that I can feel the pull, but others don't. Terence McKenna used to talk about it. Are we as humanity being pushed forward? Like what determines where we'll be next is where we were just before, or are we being pulled by a specific future? And I'm not going to get into it, but I think that most people are living life as being pushed towards. So my next job is based on my previous job, and my next salary is based on my previous salary, and my next move with my wife is based on our past relationships. And I think that if you start living life by being pulled towards, then you can do those quantum leaps, because it doesn't matter where I came from. I have an understanding of where I'm going to, and something can happen there. And if you trust this, I think this is like this is part of like doing your art. I think it's like, maybe we can call it like the muse. It's like there is something that whispers in your ear.
In your ear, yeah.
That, yeah, something whispers in your ear where you should go. Yeah, and you can't explain it. And I think that kind of like what makes human unique for now, that we have something outside of ourselves that whispers in our ear, a place that we have to go that doesn't necessarily make sense into any let's do it the right way algorithm, because it comes from somewhere else. So I think that's also like an indication. Just like being very open to hear that voice and being pulled towards it. I think that for me, it really helped me overcome the disbelief of people around me towards my art.
Yeah, a comment in to go to you, Simcha, is your art. We say it's your passion, it's your genius. Your art is something that you're being pulled towards, and you have to listen to it, and that I think is the hard part. I think if you look to what everyone has done so far, or what you've created so far, that's an interesting point. It's as you're being pulled to the future, how do you want to contribute? What do you when you wake up in the morning? Gosh, I really want to do this. This interaction, the way I interact with people this way, is actually what makes me the most satisfied. I just think it's a yes. It's great. You can get really good feedback from other people, and still you are with yourself to discover what it is that that turns you on, where you bring the most value into the world. Simcha.
Yeah, I really resonated with all that, and I wanted to just share that I was listening to an interesting podcast this past week, and wow, it got pretty existential pretty quickly. I liked it, and they were talking about that, used to be for people, right, that the height of a moment was the height of a moment. In other words, wow, right, it's the 60s, the 70s. I'm just waiting for Bruce Springsteen to just play that solo, and then the height of the moment is I'm like with him in his solo, and we're just rocking, And then at some point, cameras became so ubiquitous, and then smartphones turned into cameras. And now is no longer about people experiencing the height of the moment. It was about capturing that moment. Oh my gosh, I am so fired up to capture that moment in my thing that I'm holding in front of my face, to capture, and then I'm going to have it. And then, so it's no longer about, and then where we've evolved through social media and things like that is now it's no longer about being the moment, and now it's no longer about capturing the moment. Wow, I'm so excited. When I share that moment, I cannot wait to see the likes and comments that people go ahead and do on this thing. Oh, it's going to be amazing. So we've really lowered our frequency of things. We've lowered it from me experiencing it to me capturing it to me just waiting to share it and see what the social vibrations are going to be around that. And everything that Ronen was talking about for me was about just like presence, getting back to presence, getting back to presence. And when you're presence, or when you're in presence, or when you are present, then you can be in that pull. You could be in the intuition. You could be in the quiet voice from within that's whispering to you, not the inner voice saying, you're unlovable, or people are going to hate you, or this is embarrassing, but the voice going, wow, this is something you should look at. Like, keep doing this. This is really beautiful for you. That voice, that higher voice, but it really comes from a place of being present. And I think that, very often a lot of these things that are out there they tend to just offer us the lowest frequency, the lowest vibration, the lowest algorithms and things like that. And we have to know that we're valuable, that we need to really ascend back to finding our moments of being present and really seeing what it is that we feel from the inside that would really be something beautiful and meaningful to contribute.
I love that, and I want to wrap up today's podcast because what we've really found in the podcast today is to discover your art requires that you get very clear on what you're passionate about, and that what you're passionate about brings your energy, and other people start to say to you, "Gosh, this is exactly what you should be doing." The other thing that we pointed out is your art is going to provide you a sense of presence, a sense of let's say comfortability in the uncomfortability. It's just like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. So there is both that the getting feedback from other people telling you you're on your path. There's also those moments you do have to take some time to be with yourself to say, is this making me delighted? Is this giving me, self-rewards? Is this really in line with what I should be doing in the world? So there is that both back and forth with what you feel and other people feel when you do your art. What I'd like to do next time, if we're game, is I'd like to talk about how you actually dive in and take little experiments to determine if this is right on track. Because I want to share a story about when I got up in front of a group of people utilizing my art and I died because there was something about it that wasn't truthful.
Failing in real time.
Failing in real time. That's a really great way to understand what, in fact, your art is. And it's also required, in fact, to delve deeper into your art. Any closing comments, Simcha?
Thank you very much for making time and space. I really appreciate these conversations. I really think it is about having these conversations at a time that we can really, without all the limits, we could do so much in the world of business and entrepreneurial thinking and work and things like that. It really is how we frame it. It's the context. It's the business philosophy around it. And I really appreciate that we make time each week to be able to talk about that.
Thank you. Ronen?
Mm-hmm. I have a short hook story for next time.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell the story and we can discuss about this next time.
All right.
Okay? Because it has to do with what we talked about it and with AI that we are anyway talking about it. So part of like doing your art means that sometimes you have no idea why you're doing it and what might be the outcome. Okay? But I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine. His name is Miron. And a while back, he said that he would like to get, all the cards of FreshBiz and all the game instructions, and he would like to build something with AI about it. So he called me yesterday and he says, I got it. Right? I got 4 AI agents playing FreshBiz. And, up until now, we said that we had over 100,000 people playing FreshBiz, right? That's kind of like the way we talk about FreshBiz. So now we can say we had 100,000 people playing FreshBiz and we had another million games that AI agents played of FreshBiz. They played FreshBiz for a million times to learn how to play FreshBiz, to learn how to collaborate and connect with each other. And then I said, okay, this is super cool, super interesting. What the F are we doing with this? Like, what's the possibilities? And we'll talk about this next time. But just him being passionate for so long, it's a journey, I think, of about 3 or 4 years that he's been talking to me about this, building it without having no clue how this might serve him or us or anyone, right? Just because he's super passionate about it and getting to the point that we can, bring AI and technology to support the thing that we are passionate about. So maybe in a future vision, we can use this to our benefit, to benefit humanity. We'll see. We'll talk about it next time. But it's crazy. It's crazy that now we have like AI agents playing FreshBiz. Just think about what's possible once they know the logic behind it and the mechanism behind it and the collaboration aspects of it. What's possible now?
Okay, and we will keep everybody, in stitches until that time. But until that time, thank you, gentlemen, for this wonderful conversation. We'll see you next time on our next episode of Fresh Leadership.
Yes.